Hi everyone, Natalie here, Only One United. I'm here with Graham. Graham, thank you for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. First and foremost, appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Lanzel, hiya. John, hi. Karen, hi. Listen, I just want to get straight into it, if that's all right with you, Graham. Or do you want to
Yeah,
talk
let's
a
go
little
for
bit
it.
about? No, let's go for it, and we'll do all that at the end.
Let's do it.
So,
Let's do it.
yeah, let's do it. Paul, yeah. I just want to touch on what's going on. I suppose people have questioned about what's going on in the fan base, and I suppose with the formation that came out recently, and I know that Catherine wrote about it, and yourself has retweeted, and it's the Barmy Army. The Barmy Army is an unofficial supporters club. It's not a threat to the supporters club. The official supporters club is ongoing. Like, we talk to each other. It's not, us versus them. There's no segregation involved. It's just now. I think I felt it. I think a lot of people in this chat have felt it. Enough's enough with Manchester United. And I think it says clearly in the statement what things are wrong. But it's not just a short-term transfer thing. It's for me, it's a long-term stability of the club. It's making sure that the men's structure and the women's structure, they mirror each other. And, you, Graham, as a journalist, we saw what happened with the press conferences. And, I've had Richard Lafferty on here, and he talks about the way that they're very secretive. For me, things like that, it shouldn't be difficult to cover this club. It shouldn't be difficult to support it. And it shouldn't be difficult for us going into the first year Champions League and having these contract issues. So I think, the statement says what it says. Go and check it out. It's been retweeted on our Twitter. I've put it on my Instagram. Like I said, it's not a ploy for anything. It's just, clear. I mean, what's your view, Graham? It is frustrating for fans.
No, of course, and I think I think people will know. Obviously, I do cover other clubs, but I think I'd be lying if I said I haven't covered United probably the most this year with Manchester World and with National World, of course, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it because of the fan base, and I've been lucky enough that some people decide to follow me on Twitter and respond to things because of some of that work. And obviously because of that, you see a lot more of what the fan base feels. And I think, from I'm a big Sunderland fan. So I'm just here to kind of preach to try and bring Amad Diallo back home. I will be bringing that up at some point. But I've understood fan bases that have been disgruntled. I've been there very much myself. And ultimately, I think what it boils down to, you're never going to get everyone that agrees. It's just not how a fan base works. It's not a hive mind. It's never going to be the case. But I think ultimately when any section of any sort of fan base does voice concerns, it comes from a place of passion. And I think ultimately that's what football's about for me. If you're coming from a place of passion and you think that things are not right, then, I agree, you should speak up. And then if people have different opinions, you discuss it in a kind of rational way, and then you kind of come to a collective, cohesive idea of what you want and go forward with it. But I'd be lying if I said that, when I am obviously discussing Manchester United on Twitter, or if I've been on shows, and obviously there's been a few I've been on this year, it is a bit of a weird situation that there's so many players that are out of contract. I mean, every press conference we did towards the end of the season, be it me or another journalist, somebody would be asking about a different player because there's so many of them, and it's ultimately people want to know what's going on with it. I mean, obviously Ona and Alessia Russo were the big focal points of who people were caring most about because of Alessia's, her ability, her potential. And Ona's been the best player of the season by country mile, and potentially is the best right back in Europe. I think a few people that will agree with me on that, and they take the headlines. But you've got like the Haley lads. There's also, I mean, I'm saying big name players, but Mary Earps. There's no confirmation on that. For a long while, there was no confirmation on what was happening with Marc, and obviously, I think a month and a half ago, he confirmed to me that the extension's been triggered, but there's no official confirmation on it. I asked about Vilda, for example. There's an extension apparently being confirmed on that. I was told that in a press conference, but nothing officially confirmed. And I think if I'm taking my journalist head off and I'm putting my fan head on, I can completely understand why some people are getting, should we say, itchy feet at the very least, or getting a bit nervous and thinking, well, where are we at? Where are we going to be at in June? And we're kind of in the 6th of June, and there's not really been a retained list or anything that's came out. And I think ultimately, most fan bases tend not to have any level of agenda across the board. They tend to come from a place of care and a place of passion. And some people can be overly passionate. Some people can be under passionate. Some people are measured. Ultimately, they all want the same goal. And that's from my perspective, Manchester United to be, up there with they're the second best team at the moment. They want to be the best team and they want to compete at the highest levels. And that's kind of I think that's what Manchester United club has been for a long time. That's how I've known them. And I was born in the late 80s. So I've known all of your success, and I understand why you want that for the women's team as well. And I think, whether you disagree with any sort of statement, it comes from the right place.
Yeah. No, that's it. And, let's just get into it because, Adam's saying it. You can see his Guna badge there. It's not good that he's coming on here. But listen, thank you, Adam, for joining. Drop a like. But John's saying it here. It can't all be down to the Qatar. And it does feel like that. It feels like that with the men. I mean, I know there's a lot of information that comes out about the men and, they're saying, mount this, but we'd have seen with the men's side, they have renewed contract. They have renewed the lot.
Yeah.
Who else was the other one? Garnacho, so there is movement there. It's just, it seems like for me, and this is supposed to again comes down to the statement, is there enough people there? Is there enough people pushing? I don't know. Maybe there is. But it's like you say, you don't really know what's going on. And, there was an Athletic article that did talk about Polly had to draft in someone called Sam Burnett. He does the men's contract. It looks like that's not really made a difference. I don't know. Maybe it has. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe they're sitting on all these announcements. I mean, for me, I'm not sure what you think, Graham, but I think a lot of the 1 year deals would have been triggered, I think. So Hayley Ladd has a 1 year deal. Mary, I read in The Athletic by Charlotte, she has a 1 year deal that has been triggered. But we can't live on 1 year deals, you know what I mean? We can't, and then you're in the same position.
No, because I think when you have a player, maybe like you've seen with Ona and maybe like you've seen with Alessia, I think when they realise they have a year left or there's a year extension and they've only got a year extension or there's less time on it, that's when sort of the bidding wars stop and people don't think about how much they're going to pay. They think, how long can we wait? And we're going to make that bid. I think for me, it comes down to clarity. Like a lot of the time, I think where a lot of clubs go wrong, and there's probably loads of clubs you could mention here at the moment, unfortunately, is the communication between the fans is not perfect. I think, and this is just me, I don't know anything, I'm just sort of reading between the lines. Like I say, there's always a question about the contracts at a press conference because it's important news, it's what the fans want to know. And I think most journalists that are on that, and I certainly will say, I feel like if anything, I should be the maximum of like a filter between the fans. Like at the end of the day, the fans are the only constant. I'm going to come and go at some point, and the players and the management and everyone involved with the club will come and go. The fans will remain. So the important thing is how the fans feel. And I think when I'm speaking to Marc, or when anyone's speaking to Marc, there is, and I like Marc. I've openly said it. I think he'll always give you an answer and he tries his best, but there is a level of frustration, I think, that comes in when he's asked about the contracts. And I think that's probably because he doesn't deal with them. And I think he's probably feeling the same level of frustration of like, God, when am I going to know what my squad is? I mean, it's really hard to manage a football club when you don't know what players are going to be with you. And I think it's fair for him to say what he has said. He's had a good season and he's managed that team and he's pushed them with these issues to second place. And there was only really Chelsea. Well, there was only Chelsea that beat you this season, and not a bad team to get beat by, as frustrating as it is. They've been a work in progress? Are they finished? They've been like Chelsea 0.1, 2.2 and 0.3 and 0.4. But I think it's down to clarity, isn't it, Nat? I think you just want a bit of clarity sometimes and like, where's this club going? Because if you know that Ona's gone, if you know that Alessia's gone, if you know that certain players haven't agreed a contract, you can do that little thing that all fans do. You write down a little sheet, you write your positions, you write who's there, and you look at where you need it to be. And it's a little bit more clarity in your head, and then you know where you're at, and you can get on with supporting the club, which is what everyone wants to do, I think. Yeah.
I mean, Adam's done a comment here, and for me, I don't think it is this. Adam. I don't think... I'm agreeing with you. I think he's shrugging his shoulders and doing this because he is frustrated. And I think he probably shares the same frustrations that we share. Because I think it's like what Vix is saying, behind the scenes. In women's football, you can go backwards very quickly. I'm just, and I feel like they're wanting to... Well, we heard last year it was the 5th biggest budget. My sources tell me that Spurs had a bigger or biggish, according to us, and it's those kind of things. But Spurs, look at their manager and what happened there. So you have to be, Marc's done this, he's done great, he's taken us to where we've never been before. But it's like he's done all that, and where's the reward?
Yes.
And the issue is we knew that Jackie was going to leave. We knew that they wanted to leave last year because there was a reason we didn't have Champions League. So that's something out of our control. So yeah, if Jackie left, it's because she wanted to go play Champions League football. But now what's the reason? And it's just, the reason is because they're not paying. And, Lanzell said something before about, why are they giving long contracts to Alessia and not to other people? Why are they lowballing Ona? Why is it that? And I get it, like Barcelona can pay, look at their books, look at how much money they're bringing in, their individual shirt sponsors. But this is Man United still. And I know we have no God-given right to be at the top, to be second, have money. But it is, it's just...
It's frustrating, isn't it? Of course it is, I think, because, and I agree with you on what you said on Marc. I think Marc's probably like sitting there going, well, I've got this team as second into a cup final, and I've got them into the Champions League after a couple of years of being here and the club being a thing for 5 years. I want to take the next step. The fans want to take the next step. And it's not to say that these contracts are not going to be done. I mean, for as far as we know, I mean, it does look like Ona's going to go. I'm going to be honest with you on that. I think, everyone's seen what Maria's put out. Maria doesn't really miss the mark, and she's very rarely that certain on things. From my experience, if she doesn't know what's going to happen. But Ona could maybe be seen as a different circumstance. She's going back to a home club. There's a lot of reasons for it. I'm sure we'll come on to it. But I think from Marc's perspective, he probably just wants to know what he's dealing with for next season. And I think, I agree with what I don't agree with what the Arsenal fan was saying previously about him shrugging his shoulders. Like, what's he meant to do? I think at the same time, he is the manager. If he goes on, and it can go one of two ways. If he goes, I've lost Alessia, oh my God, everything's terrible. Then like he's not really putting on a good face. But I think behind closed doors to himself, and probably when he gets home and he's trying to work out a plan for next season, he's probably putting his head through a window because he wants to build on top of this. He doesn't just want to retain his players. You need to build on top as well. I mean, we've seen what's happened with City this season, and look, City can always come back, and I don't think they've been as bad as some people think. But have they been left behind by Manchester United and the top three this season? Yes. And they brought in Yui Hasegawa, who's a great player, but they lost Kira, they lost Georgia Stanway, and they lost Caroline Weir. And for the best part of the first 3 months, everyone was bemoaning that. It took them a little while to steady, but it left them at a point where they couldn't really afford to lose many games. Unfortunately, they lost too many and didn't get a Champions League place, and now they're not in the Champions League. So who do they attract this season? And the guy said before, if you're not moving forward, you're not standing still, you're going backwards. And Marc will know that. Marc's certainly not an idiot. He's a very deep thinker, I think, from my experience, and he'll want to build on top of this, and he understands the demands of Manchester United. And I think he's probably brave enough to let a lot of the results and the decisions and things go on his head, in my experience. But I think behind closed doors, and again, I don't know, but behind closed doors, I have a feeling he's a little bit frustrated. I don't think it's any coincidence that he mentioned the word investment twice around the FA Cup time. He knows more investments needed.
Yeah. I mean, Mary came out and said it, and I sent you it straight away, didn't I? Mary said it. What we need to do is keep these players and then get in more quality. These players have maxed out. Yeah, that's what she said. And she's been playing with them. She knows. You speak to, any of them, they know what's expected. Even, I don't know. There'll be players there that know that this is probably it. And they will, if they get let go, they will be expecting it because, we as Manchester United Football Club need to go on to that next level. And for me, keeping on, I know you said she's gone, and this is what I want to come on to. I don't have a clue why. And for me, I think both Alessia and Ona are gone. That's what I think. I know you can say, I don't know, but I think we're at a point now, Graham, and guys getting I think they're both gone. I think for me, it was always that. I'm going to say this, and not saying that she was actively, because she wasn't, but I think if I had to say one wanted to stay, in my opinion, I feel like Ona wanted to stay more. The fact that we're seeing these things coming out all the time since January, I heard that if they had made the offer, this and that. I even think back when Casey was in charge, if they had offered a 3 year, then it's all these things. It's all this. This is why people talk about mismanagement. For me, I think we're still hearing what Catherine put out, and I know that Catherine is well sourced. I know that I'm not saying what they're saying in Spain is wrong. I'm not saying, but I just know that every chance there's been, there seems to be denying it. There seems to be, she's come out and done a podcast today. I'm still a United player. Of course, she's not going to go, yeah, I can't wait and this and that, because I think she has very much respect for the fans and everything like that. But it is concerning why it's half the salary of others and we can't deny it. And then I think it also, Charlotte talked about the length also wasn't suitable. And we know with Leslie, they ended up offering 6 years. And then we know it's down to 4 or 3 plus whatever. 4, that's more suitable. Yeah, okay. I don't know what Arsenal are offering. But for me, I feel like with Leslie, it's not about the money, because all we're hearing about is length is the problem. So for me, it sounds like the money's maybe there. I don't know. But for Ona, you're hearing this and this. Why is it that she's been treated? I don't know. Because for me, the most important is Ona. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think I'm a really big fan of Alessia, but I do understand the thought process because of how good Ona's been and how good she still can be. We're talking about, I mean, I said at the top of the show, I think best right back in Europe at the moment. There'll be some people that disagree with me on that, and that's okay. I think a lot of people will agree, but she has still got room to go. She's only 23, 24. I think the big thing for me is probably about, again, ambition. I've said this a few times when I'm thinking if I'm in like Ona's head or Alessia's head or any player's head. To me, at the moment, Manchester United is still a project, but it could be accelerated a little bit, or that's how it looks from the outside, because obviously at this moment in time, we don't know who's staying. Like, we genuinely don't know. To me, it looks like Ona's away because of what Maria Tikas has said. Alessia, I genuinely, I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to hang my hat on leaving or staying, but I can understand 100% why people think she would be away, because why are we in June and discussing 12 contracts? To the outside looking in, I would say Man United don't look like they're building on top yet. And don't get me wrong, it's a big long summer to come. They could surprise us all. All those players could stay. You could sign some great players. But I think for Marc, again, just to kind of reiterate what I was saying before, he'll want to bring in more than just 17-year-olds from Aston Villa, I think. And he'll want them in early so he can plan. Marc doesn't strike me as someone who works like on the hop. He plans stuff in advance. And Manchester United probably do that as well. But it is a concern that we're still here and we still don't know who's officially staying at this point. And I think that would probably help use, if anything, as fans. Like, if you know who's staying, you can sort of like work around what's happening. Everyone wants their business done early. And I know that's not always possible, but at the moment, we think Hayley Ladd should be an extension triggered. Marc said that Vilda's had a contract extended as well. We think, Hayley Ladd, Mary Earps, those sort of players. But there's no confirmations yet, so you can't really plan, can you? And I kind of get what Charlie's saying there about the club coasting. Again, it is a cliche, and we're probably going to come across a few cliches as always. But at this moment in time, you can't stand still. You need to push forward.
Can I just say, I suppose in response to this, it's always how I felt with Manchester United before we had a women's team. There's plenty of people in this chat watching now that have watched Man United before they had a women's team. And I've always felt that when we were in Champions League, look at when David Moyes came in, they waited, they go on, they just focus on one thing. So it's like they're just focusing on Alessia and Ona maybe, let's just get these, then we'll get the rest. No, because for me, my concern is Mary's then got a 1-year deal. Lucia's got out of contract next year, so by January people can talk to her. You got Maya and Grace there, who, I mean, God, Maya, but by next year, this is her second year, but next year, and then next year we'll be in the same situation. For me, you have to be doing a lot of things, but I wonder if there's enough people to do that. It seems like in the men's team, they're now doing that and they're now spreading it, but then if we're having to draft people in from the men's team, we've obviously not got enough people in the women's setup. Marc did talk about bringing in head of recruitment, but look how long it took to bring in Polly. So this is what I'm saying, that they're not... You talked at the start, Graham, about passion, and I think our fan base has more passion than the people at the top. We know that with the Glazers and what they've done and everything, but even... my worry is if Jim comes in, are they going to be the same, or are they going to be like, boom, let's get the stadium, and obviously you want these things, but for me, the major issue when it's sorted, if it's sorted, because look how long that's taken, is for the women's team, because for me, not to have the same structures, because we should be doing everyone's contract. I said to Lanzel, there's 2 players there that we've listed, and they want contracts there. But I feel like people like, it's going to sound really horrible, but people like Hayley, Mary, maybe they're a bit more not loyal, but you know what I mean. And so I think, are they taking advantage of that? That Hayley will say, that thing, say Vilda will say, if she gets the game time. So are we taking advantage of the kind of fact that we know these players love it here?
We've heard the term future proof as well. The very worst case scenario, you trigger that extension until everyone has been triggered, and then you can say, and I know Marc said before, obviously, I'm pretty certain Mary Earps's contract will be triggered. It would be very silly not to, even if she says, I want to leave, you trigger it just to get a transfer fee at the very least. So I'd assume a lot of these players get an extension, but I think Marc was saying they were trying to negotiate like a brand new contract completely, which makes sense. I think Mary's up there with one of the best goalkeepers in Europe, officially the best, if you want to go with that. But I think just for like clarity, people kind of need to know where it's at. Like, I've never known, it doesn't really happen in Arsenal, Chelsea too much, where you're talking about contracts, because you kind of know where it's at. And the team you're trying to chase is Chelsea. Chelsea, it looks like their business is pretty much wrapped up already. You're hearing a lot of incomings for that. We know who's staying. Mielda signed a contract the other day for an extra year. I think Man City are confirming their contracts. And I know, Steph is obviously 35 and she's not like a brand new signing and stuff like that. But Steph's going to be part of that squad. Arsenal, Steph Catley signed a contract. She's going to be part of that squad today. There's been contracts signed from Kim Little recently. You sort of know who's going to be part of their squad and who's going to be the nucleus. And then once you've got that sorted, then you go, right, who do we put on top of that? Who do we build on top of that? And I'm sure that's how Marc's thinking, and that's how any club that finishes second should be thinking. For me, from a total journalist perspective, if you want my honest opinion why I've probably covered Man United more this season, it's probably subconsciously the most exciting club to kind of cover at the moment because of the growth and where it can go. But if you don't build this season, it kind of stutters and becomes a bit unexciting. And suddenly you're Man City, no offense to Manchester City, who I'm sure will come back and do very well, but they have fallen behind this season for whatever reason it may be. And Manchester United can't afford to go backwards at this point. It needs to be built on. And the starting block needs to be contracts and knowing who you're going to have as part of your squad and then building on top of it, I think. And Marc, I think, will feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, like someone said to me, someone who's worked in the club, and they've said to me, the potential in Man United is absolutely huge, massive. So it's like what you're saying. You can see it with the fan base, I suppose with the way that we've set up, and that just shows how much potential, because like what's being said here by Sporty, the pressure needs to be put on and put up or shut up. Yeah, what we're doing. We're just going through the motions, and that's where I do feel for like you're saying, we know that Mary's extended, but does she want to leave? Does she? I don't know. There's
players are ambitious,
Yeah, I'm hearing lots of things that maybe, well, we've heard. Let me just 2 players we've heard of that we've been linked to, so it sort of fits into this, but maybe it fits into another one. But we've heard of Leipzig. I don't know what you know about that, and then Hannah Hampton have been linked to Manchester United. And Leipzig, if I'm saying the name right, is absolutely...
From Leicester? Well, Bayern Munich.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, she's different class. Hampton is a good keeper. We all know, we've heard what's happened. Obviously, that's been resolved. And potentially, she's got her offers.
They're both solid goalkeepers,
what do you know about those
2? To be completely blunt, I don't know anything about it, but I think it was Emma that posted about Janina. That would make sense to me. I think Sophie Bagley is a really good goalkeeper. I personally think it was maybe the wrong move, because I think, Sophie Bagley could be knocking on the door of the England squad a couple of years ago, because of the performance she was putting in. And obviously she's behind Mary Earps because of how good Mary Earps is. I'm not too sure whether Janina would sign, and this is just literally surmising, I don't know anything about it. The reason for that is I think she's performed so well for Leicester. She's gone there to get game time. She comes to Manchester United. Is she really going to get past Mary Earps? You're arguably trying to get past the best goalkeeper in Europe there. Hannah Hampton would maybe make more sense. But then I think what happens at Manchester City with goalkeepers will be really interesting, because obviously Roebuck's contract's up. That doesn't sound like anything's happening in the the meantime, could either of those look at Man City and say, well, I could get first team place, or do they think Sandy might get the choice there? I think you do need first class backup. I do like Sophie Bagley. I do think she kind of fits that role well. But again, when we talk about moving backwards and moving forwards and not standing still, maybe getting someone who can actually like compete and might actually get in ahead of Mary might help with that. And I think if you're looking at the choice of those two, Janina's the better choice.
And I think, like you're saying, isn't it? You know, people are saying, you know, and I hear what you're saying about the whole thing, but it looks like, yes, for me, Graham, I've heard Rambo's got, yeah. And I would love to keep Rambo.
January.
I would love to keep Rambo.
I think she'll go to Everton.
Said it to her. I want you to stay here. You know, this is your number one. You know, Man United, OG21. You know, she has the number one. Let's remember she has the number one. But obviously, she didn't sign a contract going out to Everton. I think they knew when she didn't sign it that she's pretty much going to go on a free. And it's a shame for me. I rate her higher than Hansen. I do rate Hansen.
So do I.
Yeah. But Janina, for me, that's for me. I'm not even horrible on Mary. I mean, for me, she would be Man United number one. I don't know, but I would like to see it more.
She could at least push her, I think. You know, she's had such a good season, and I know most people chose Mary Earps, and I would have chose Mary Earps as sort of my WHL keeper of the season for multiple reasons, which is another conversation for another day. But I think outside of that, you are looking at Leipzig to be someone that would be potentially the one that would push her. So if they're both in the same squad, could they push? Absolutely. But I agree with you on Emily Ramsey. I heard there was certain things we heard in January about her potentially going to Everton permanently, and I was kind of expecting that would probably happen because of how she played. I think she's been desperately unlucky to pick up that injury that she got in international duty. Because for me, I was on, obviously, we do a WSL show with National World, and we were talking who the three goalkeepers would be, and me and my colleague on there, Georgia, both decided that Emily Ramsey would be a better choice than Hannah Hampton, and that's because she's gone out, she's played first team football, she's excelled. I think that injury just came at like the worst time for her, and obviously Serena has her reasons for it. I'm definitely not going to have. I am definitely not as well. I'm not as good as coach as Serena. I never will be. But for me, I rate Emily Ramsey very high, and I think she would be lost to Manchester United, but go out, flourish. You know, get your first team football. You deserve it, I think
a lot of Man United fans aren't impressed with Serena's choices, and you know who we mean. But listen, it's not an England show today, lads. Sorry. We're not going to get into thing. But I want to get onto this one. This is the big one. I think me and you were even talking about it. And listen, this is the one that I know the agent might come and call me a liar. Listen, let him call me a liar because I had it, finished, locked off, guaranteed. And I don't know if this is the takeover or what, but from what I'm hearing in Spain, yes, the agent saying, you know, it was never, it's all lies, or the agent can say what they want because obviously the agent, like we've even Honours, you know, if Honours done and the agent's coming, maybe it's the same ploy. I don't know. But for me, I don't know Matty, but I know that when Ona came, there was a lot of talk that she was going to come as well. So I think there's been long-standing interest from Casey. From what I know, she would love to come to Manchester United. She's free agent. It just fit everything. And I don't know what's going on. Maybe they found someone else. Maybe this is what they're doing. They're putting out. I don't know. But this was a crazy one.
I can only sort of speak from my side, Nat, and I think I don't know how aware people are about my job, and I'll try and keep it as least boring as I can and as least self-invested as I can. But obviously, I don't work as a women's football journalist full time. I do an awful lot. I help with a club on a weekend, and then the Monday to Friday in my spare time, I will cover the club as best I can. My actual job is sort of writing about films and stuff like that as well. But I do an awful lot with National World because I enjoy writing about it, and because obviously that's something I enjoy doing. So if you look at it that way, you know, no journalist across the board, be it the best journalist in the world or be someone like myself, would ever put something out that is just for clicks. Not in this day and age, especially not when it comes to transfers, because there's no real point in that. Because ultimately, if you put something out that hasn't been source checked by multiple sources and sources that you trust and sources that have been right before, you just put something out to get someone to click on something, it's kind of not worth it because it comes back tenfold. And obviously that's something I think I've been on the show before, Nat, and I've said to you, I'll put nothing out until I've had 3 solid sources confirm to me that's happening. or they've heard about that. There's enough people say it, and moves can change, things can be different. Obviously, I'm aware her agency came out and said that there was no contact from Manchester United. Her agency said that, of course, from my side. I've never spoke to her agency. I don't know. I wasn't in a room. They've said what they've said. From my side, I obviously put something out about Matan because of the amount of sources that were very reliable, still remain very reliable, had checked that out separately, 3 separate people. I always sort of do. That's just the way that I work. I don't know how other journalists work. That's how I work, because I certainly don't want to get anyone's hopes up, get anything wrong, or upset anyone or anything like that. Turns out she's going to the NWSL. The reason behind that, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But from my knowledge, and I could be completely wrong, hey, maybe I was completely off the mark with it, and all my sources are terrible, and everyone I should speak to, I should block on my phone. But they said it was never a contact, and they would have liked that contact. From my knowledge, there was definite interest there. But it hasn't happened. I don't know why.
We're talking at the top of the show about contracts, but we're talking, I think he's gone now. Adam, he was called, was talking about, you don't know where you're at, but that was a player. That was a player that I would have loved to have. And like I said, I don't know if it's I don't know if they found a better player, if she got fed up of waiting. I don't know. Is it Ona's gone and then told her not to go? We don't. And I don't think we'll ever know. But this one is for me, it feels a bit more strange than
it is for me
the contracts. For example, Ona's going to go Barca. Yeah, okay, but for me, Martine, she was, like you said, I work where I know one person in Spain, and they've got it right for Ona, they've got it right for this, they got it right for that, and this one, they were like, wow, this has come out of the blue. So I don't know what's gone on. Maybe we'll hear. Maybe it'll come soon.
It's a funny world of transfers now, and I've noticed that I'm already exhausted from transfers, truth be told. More on 6th of June, there we go. I'm pleased I'm having a week holiday after this, put it that way. But I think ultimately for United fans, probably the way to look at that one is whatever the ins and outs, it hasn't come to fruition. But I think I said before that, and I've said to you privately, and I've said to, I think, someone on Twitter a few weeks ago, I see my job as, making sure that I'm giving you the best news that I've got that's valuable and as reliable as it possibly can be, because I think I'm trying to help grow the women's game even further on, and if I can play a really small part in that, 0.0111%, whatever it may be, I will do. And to me, that was a move that there was at the very least interest in. If people are saying that's not the case, then I guess that's not the case, but a very odd one, because it would have made a lot of sense for someone like that to come in.
Marc was talking about world-class players, and I'm not saying she's like the best. I'm not saying she's, Patria or anything, but she's that where we were looking.
She's better than what you have, if I'm honest, in my opinion. I think she would have at least added to that squad. She's, at the minute, you've got Hayley Ladd and you've got Katie Zellum, who are your first-team choices in that sort of 2-6 rules or 4, whatever you may be. Vilda can fit in there. I think Vilda's a bit better further forward, personally. I think some people would agree with me on that. But bringing in Matan would have completely added to that. There's pressure on Katie Zellum and Hayley Ladd for their position there. Then you've got competition, and then you've got more squads to play in the, more games than you've ever played. And that's kind of what Marc will know he needs to do. He needs to pick a squad of players that are going to challenge every single week, and you can mix and match, because I don't know how Marc feels about his squad, and I'm sure there's lots of people he rates. But last season, there wasn't a great deal of rotation, and that to me indicates that, he trusts those ones that are in the squad. He does also trust the ones that he's brought off the bench. But if you're moving forward, you want someone that you're not just going to trust to come off the bench and play well. You want someone who's going to challenge your first team players. That's how I look at it. And she would have added to that. She's available on a free transfer. It would have made a lot of sense, but that's not happening for some reason or another. If I find out, I'll be more than happy to share it. But at the moment in time, apparently it was never even close. So let's go with that one.
Yeah. Well, listen, like you said, what do we know?
Yeah.
This is one. Esme Brutz, and I don't know if it was you who said it, or if it was Jamie, or if it was both of you who said it, but this is one as well that will add, and this is one that will, again, I'm seeing people talk. Unnati, saying she would have been fantastic. That's just about Martine. So yeah, it's a strange one. But like Esme, she is one that Marc's saying, world class. And for me, Martine, Esme, these are players that would add to where we're at.
Agree.
And these are the players we want. And we heard about. I think was it you said we were in head, but there are a lot of clubs and this and that. And I know, like I said, Jamie put something out as well. So this one seems to be the most traction behind it. She come out and says, yes, she's leaving. She's not decided yet. What do you know currently about this one?
I think there's definitely interest there from my knowledge, but then I don't think Man United are the only one. But I think, when people talk about Ona and how many clubs were interested in Ona, she's a young fullback that's got room to grow, that is already proven to be one of the best young right backs, if not the best in Europe. It's natural for like millions of clubs to be interested. I think Esme doesn't fit exactly that role. She's not the best winger in Europe, but she's 19. She's got 4 goals in 16 games for Holland. She was a player that I wrote about during the Euros as someone to watch out from, like a teenager that could really shine on the stage. As it was, Holland didn't have the best. The Netherlands didn't have the best tournament, and so on and so forth. But she's done very well at PSV. Her stock is obviously still quite high. There's room to grow. She's available on a free transfer. There's going to be a lot of clubs interested in her. But to my understanding, and just to repeat what I said before, I'll never confirm anything unless I have pretty solid confidence, because you need to have confidence, and that's just the basics of it. There's interest there, but I think obviously Manchester City are looking at that as well. But your trump card in that is we're playing the Champions League, you're not. But there'll be other clubs interested in Esme as well. But if that was one that could get over the line, again, realistically, Leah Galton had a great season, but is there anyone that really could be challenger in that position? And I think, I'm not saying put her in ahead of Leah Galton, not at all, but there's nothing wrong with really healthy competition from a potential world-class player at the age of 19 that's already shown she's got a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and tons of room to grow. So she, to me, is more in. There's obviously been Evie Rabjohn's been signed. There's been links to Emma Watson from Rangers, who I've watched an awful lot this season. But for me, Esme is probably a little bit ahead in her story and her progression. She's played 16 times for her country. She's been picked for a European Championship squad. She would be a great signing to add to the squad and give you another option on the left. As Vicky said, fantastic prospect. She spoke about long before the rumours were about, you're not like having a rumour that she's going to go somewhere and then saying, what she like. She was known before those rumours came out. So on a free transfer, 19-year-old, if Man United aren't interested, they should be.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm going to touch on something. I'm going to go back. So I think because we were talking about Martine and how good she would be, I think people have now ended up saying, so is Cascarino leaving? Are we getting Casca on a permanent? Clarity on Casca. And she came in and was told we was going to play as that 6. She did start in that 6. She played your team, Sunderland. But
she did.
What's gone on there? Because Lisa came in as well, and Lisa then towards the end has got those minutes. I know she got the injury, but she ended up getting those minutes. Vilda ended up getting those minutes towards the end. He talked about we'll see a lot more of Lucia and Lisa, so, but he didn't really name Casca. I mean, what's your view on that?
I think it's a bit of an odd one, because obviously Cascarino's gotten in the France squad despite the fact that she hasn't really played at all. And I think when the move was first mooted in January, and I think there'll be a few people that will probably back me up on this, I'm pretty certain it appeared to be a permanent move, not a loan. And they got confirmed as a loan, and it was like, all right. Now, loans are a funny thing, because I think sometimes you bring a player in loan because it's quicker and you can then send at the end of the season, you have an agreement put in place and yada, yada. And to my knowledge, I thought that would just be a case of it being a contract signed at the end of the season, if I'm honest with you. That's kind of what I surmised and thought it would be. But she's not really played. And she was like, Jade came in and hasn't really played. There's reasons for that, fitness, yada, yada, so on and so forth. Same with Lisa. She came in, got an injury, then got a few of the minutes at the end. Cascarino's been fit the whole way through. He said he sees her as a midfielder. There's links towards Matan. There's links to, I'm sure there'll be other midfielders in the future. Where does she fit? Because in your midfield, who can play in that midfield? So Elatoon's your 10. Vilda can play in your 10. Vilda can play in your 6 or your 8. You got Hayley Ladd, Katie Zellum, the more defensive players. You got Lisa in there as well, who can probably play between the 8 and the 10. So where does Cascarino fit in there? I don't know if maybe the plan was to bring her in on loan and then sign her permanently, or there's an option to sign her permanently and it just hasn't worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But I would hazard a guess that, and this is just guesswork, this is no knowledge, I think they'll keep her because I think they need to build their squad. They're playing more games than ever this season, and I think probably to have a conversation, sit down with them and say, look, you didn't get many minutes, but you're valuable part of the squad. You're versatile. We would need you as part of the squad. You're going to get more minutes. The other side of that coin could be that, to be honest, go to the World Cup, see how good of a World Cup you have, and then you might get a decent move. So she might be holding out. I don't think her future's going to be with her current club, put it that way.
No.
But a really interesting one that I kind of half forgot, if I'm honest with you, that Cascarino was there. And that's probably not good.
Listen, for me, I think Man United put out loan, Paris put out permanent, and I think then there was that
they did that's
going on. And then I think Paris put out that it was loan with an option to buy, or so, whatever.
You're right with that. You are right with that.
I think, like you, I think we all thought, right, she come in, challenge, lad, blah, 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 we'll see more, blah, blah, blah. And it's just not worked out for whatever reason. I don't know. For me, we'll get into this, but it is a bit of concern that it brings players in and they don't get game time to Cara, Leon. I don't know. Is that where maybe the head of recruitment need to be a bit more specific and know what they're looking at? I don't know. I feel like you get a chance, to sign players and they've got to be your player. Look at Mayer's walked in, bang. But everyone knew Mayer would walk in because, I just want to then flip it, I suppose, because I've seen something and I want to go back to the wingers again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one I think you talked about. This is why I got you on the show, Graham, because you're the one putting names out the most. But Katie Robinson, and she looks like a good player. As long with Brooks, it's hard with that one. I don't know who I'd have more. But what I do know, because I know people in Brighton, she's got another year. So if anyone wants her, they'll have to pay. What do you know about this, I suppose?
So I think in January it was more like one of those ones because it was City and Manchester United that was rumoured at the time, and I think they were the names that I put out. And I think, alongside with the likes of Lucy Parker, who I know is not as young as Katie, but like Man City, United, I think generally we're looking at those kind of players. Robinson it's gone really quiet. And again, I have no knowledge of this. What I would say is that I kind of agree with you that I imagine, especially with it getting put in the World Cup squad, no one's going to be putting a bid in right now because, if you're Brighton, you want your big bucks for your best players. She shows a lot of potential. I personally, and I've said this before, so hopefully I won't get shot down for it, I would have took Jess Park. I think she's a better player. But Katie Robinson obviously is in the Lionessa squad and has been picked by Serena, who is arguably one of the best head coaches in Europe for a reason. So I think she probably will want to move further on. I think Brighton, no offense to Brighton, they've got a very, very good manager. And then obviously we've seen the push Manchester United, but I don't think they're going to be pushing at the higher echelons of the league. And I think you only need to look at Mayer and see what she's done. Again, it's not an England show, but I'm baffled that she's not gotten the World Cup squad. I think a lot of people are. But look, if you look at how much her stature's grown just from that move, she's slotted in like she's been at Manchester United for years. The likes of Katie Robinson would probably want to replicate that with either a City or a Man United. But I don't know this, but I think there's always interest and things always change, especially from January to sort of May and June. I think her stock's grown an awful lot since January. I think the money that Brighton probably want, especially with 1 year left in the contract, can you wait that extra year? Yeah, I think it'll be down to money. Again, I don't know that. That's just total guesswork, but that's what I think.
I mean, Charlie's saying something here. I'd love to know who's really making the final decision. So would I, Charlie. And this is a thing that has come up and people are saying it above. Do you think this is going to affect it? I mean, Paul, nail on the head, I think he was talking about when I said you're bringing in players, but they're not getting game time, and it isn't a good look. I can't say it isn't a good look to Cara, and I think Lanzell's even said, will rotation be a problem? And I know, listen, I watch your press conferences, Graham, so every time you put them out and then Man United, I read what you say and I'll think, right, I won't react yet. I've tried to calm myself down because I think it reads worse than what he's going to say it as.
Mm-hmm.
So then I go onto the app, and I know people get even annoyed at listening to him. Some people are at that point, but I go onto the app and listen to how the question was asked and how he responded. But what I did feel towards the end of the year, when people started saying, you're the team that doesn't rotate them out, because the stats are there. You can't deny it. You can't say anything. It's there. We don't, Brighton rotated more than Man United. And he can say what he says, this is my team, and you don't change. Yeah, good. But at points, you do have to change it because not everyone's performing the same level that they were at the start at the end. So do you, when he's saying to you, I'm going to rotate more, it's not an issue, this, that, what's your vibe when he says stuff like that? And I suppose the way he reacts to the questions, because he does seem to be very, very annoyed that this is a criticism leveled against him.
Yeah, I think he does. And that's what I quite like about Marc. I never feel like, and people may disagree, this is just, me to him. When I chat to him, I always feel he's very sincere in what he says, which I think I quite like that about him. And I think he genuinely feels like the team he puts out is the best team. And, to him, I've got the team second, the best finish we've ever had. So the plans that I've put in place have progressed us further. And that is a really valid point. I think, I'll be honest, I've grown slightly fond of Man United and the fans because, I've been a pleasure to be on shows and spoke to many Manchester United fans and seen the team, and again spoke to Marc and the club and stuff like that have been nice enough to let me interview players. So I've grown fond of the club itself. But for me, when I'm watching it, there is points when I'm just like, I would have played, maybe Vilda or something like that, or I would have, I think you look at when Aoife came in against Arsenal, she was player of the match, and she hadn't played for a long time, and a lot of the story came along her being, the comeback and how good of a game it was and how important the result was and how she was the best player on the pitch. But that was actually a bit of freshness that came in at the back. And it wasn't like Millie Turner deserved to be dropped. She was injured. Millie Turner had a great season. May had a great season. But I think whether Marc wants to or whether Marc doesn't, I think he's going to be forced to rotate this season. I think he's kind of alluded to that. You can't go into a Champions League season and have a chance of... you're going to have a chance to win every trophy next season. Do I think you will? I think that'll be where the proof really is in the pudding towards the end of next season. Because if you haven't lifted a trophy by next season, I think if people think Man United fans are impatient now, I think that might change by then. But this is going to be a big season because you've taken that next step to challenge top three. You've got in it. Now you're going into a big season where you've got more games than ever, and your fans want a trophy. I know that he wants a trophy as well. You cannot do that on a core of 15 players, in my opinion. If he proves me wrong, brilliant. I'll be more than happy for him. I'll be more than happy for the club, the fans. But my opinion is 15 players is a strong squad in terms of it being very close-knit. But I think for the kind of campaign you're going to be coming up to, you need a good at least 17 to 20. I just think you need more strength and depth. And I think ultimately it might come down to the fact that whether you agree or not, does he rate Vilda as high as Katie Zellum? Does he rate Vilda as high as Hayley Ladd? Earlier in the season, does he rate Lucy Staniforth as much as Hayley Ladd? Well, obviously not, because Lucy Staniforth went, and they're all good players, but for where he wants the club to be and where the club want to be, you want to have your best team on the pitch as often as possible, which is why I was saying before, the likes of Esme coming in to challenge Leah Galton, you're not losing too much quality. If you're bringing on Esme for Leah or Leah for Esme, at the moment, you're probably, in my opinion, with some players losing a little bit of quality when you bring them in. And maybe he knows that and he wants to put his strongest team up because the pressure's really high. It's a high pressure situation. I think he needs more players, personally. Yeah. I think the squad needs to be stronger.
Yeah. I mean, talking about bringing players off, and I've seen a name mentioned, so I'm going to bring it up again. Hansen, what's your view on her? Can you see her staying? Do you think she'll come in because we need a bigger squad, like you're saying, but she's going to be one to play? Do you think they'll sell her because they've got basically 3 years on it? If you look at the option, obviously we know. Yeah, look, what do you think about Hansen? Obviously we know that Villa really want her. No disrespect to Villa now, but and everyone knows what I think about Carla Ward. So yeah, listen, If they want her, for me, I think you have to put down bigger money than maybe they're prepared to pay currently. I don't know. But I think we're in a power position. And I think even with the men's team, we see that we don't sell well. So Man United, even with Jackie, I don't think we sold well there.
No.
We're in a power position. And I'm not saying, this and that, but it is football, isn't it? I'm not saying hold her against the will and all this, but she will know the script as well, I suppose, when she signed that contract. And I think that's potentially why you don't see women signing long-term contracts, because then something like this happens. Yeah.
I really rate Kirsty Hansen. Like I think if anyone hasn't seen it, and this is not me bigging up the podcast I do because I don't currently do it anymore, but I was lucky enough to chat to Kirsty about a time at United and a time at Villa in about January time on a podcast that I do. If you search for it, my name, you'll find it. And she's such a lovely, lovely person. So obviously I want the best for her because of how nice she was. But I thought she was outstanding this season. I actually don't think she got enough plaudits. I think she got on the shortlist for the WSL Player of the Year, and people were like, well, this place should be in that. But for me, Kirsty Hansen fully deserved that. She's been absolutely superb. She tore Arsenal to pieces in the final game of the season. She's obviously a Manchester United fan, but I think Kirsty Hansen's shown the form that she has when she's truly loved and respected and trusted by a boss. And I must say Marc doesn't. I just think Carla really, really rates her. And if someone says to you, you know what, you're like the best player. I'll give you an example from a Man United perspective that also includes me, sort of maybe. I live in Glasgow. Amad Diallo went on loan to Rangers last year. Quite early on, it became quite obvious he wasn't trusted to be playing every single game from the start. At Sunderland, very different. We played him from the beginning. We told him, you're our best player, pretty much. Go and enjoy yourself. And he absolutely shone for us and was, far and wide one of the best players in the Championship last year. And now he's gone back to Manchester United, a much better player. So I think you'll have that with Kirsty Hansen. I think she's going to come back a better player. And I agree. I wouldn't say she's a confidence player. I think any player plays better when they have confidence and when they feel loved. And I think feeling loved sounds very dramatic, because feeling loved sounds like, they have to be loved and have to be looked after, and they're not loved at Manchester United. I don't think that's the case. But if you're playing every single week and you're pinging balls onto Rachel Daly's head and she's breaking records and you're getting 8-9 assists a season, and you think, wow, I'm having a great season, you're going to put that down to playing every single week and feel like the manager trusts your player every single week. At the moment, Man United squad's maybe a little bit stronger in those positions, and she might not feel that she'll get game time as much as she wants, and she certainly doesn't want to have a confidence knock. But for me, I want Kirsty Hansen to go wherever she's happy, because as a complete neutral, I think Kirsty Hansen's a fabulous player, and she's shown it. If I was Manchester United, would I include her in the squad? 100%. But I do understand why maybe she would be reluctant, and why maybe Marc would be reluctant to stunt her progress if he can't guarantee it every single game. If I was Man United, I'd probably be a bit selfish and say, yeah, you're going to play most of the games, but not every game. But I think Kirsty just wants to play football. She's 24. Why would you not? And I think she deserves that. Do I think she could add Man United squad? I think she could add at any top 3 squad, to be completely honest with you. But I think at Villa, who are easily potentially going to break in the top 4, they're probably the 5th best side on paper, but they beat Man City a couple of times, they beat Arsenal. They're on the verge of. If I was Kirsty, I'd ask for the move to Aston Villa, where she's going to play every week and flourish even more. You can probably tell I've got a lot of time for Kirsty. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I think, you hit the nail on the head there with saying about Villa are going to flourish and stuff. And for me, I think at this point, yeah, maybe Man United have signed everyone and we don't need to worry this and that. But for me, the feeling that I have amongst fans is that Man United are, we're talking about going backwards, but we're talking about breaking top 4. Man United could finish 5th, and I'm not saying that because of that, but, City have tied down all their players. They're talking about they're done, Arsenal. And then, if Villa come up, then we're sitting in 5th. I mean, here's a question from Sporty, and I know that there's a similar question below, but which market should we be looking in? And is there a country should get bigger bang for the buck? I don't think that's in England, personally, but, Spain, but then I'm not saying Germany.
I mean, there's a few places you can look, I suppose.
Sweden.
Apologies about the silence. Yeah, I do live in Glasgow, so. But I think when it comes to the market, there's a lot of good quality across a lot of places. But I do think if you look at the WSL, I think some of the best business has come from Scandinavia. And maybe that's just me. Maybe, I think Arsenal are in a really good position. That Jonas is obviously Swedish, so he knows that area a bit better. I think you need to make sure you're thoroughly scouting players and you're making sure that you've got the right person alongside the right sort of player, because I think the harmony in the dressing room is hugely important. But you look at Frida Leonardson Manham coming over, she's been outstanding this season. There's multiple players you can look at from that area that have done really well, and it seems that the market's really good. But I do think players are getting more expensive consistently. Like, you see the price going up the way the game's going up. I think Holland's a good place to look as well. Look at how many good players have come from the Netherlands as well. You've just got to hope that wherever Manchester United are all looking, they're looking at a place that is going to give them the best value and is, as you say, going to give them the best bang for the buck. You'd like to think they will do, but to go back to the start of the conversation, when contracts are not signed and you have that kind of, oh God, what's actually happening? I can understand fans not feeling that confident in the signings coming in either. But we could all be wrong, and everyone could sign a contract. You could sign 1 million players, and the transfer window could be absolutely fine. You just never know.
Yeah, I mean, what we're saying there, you said it, and I don't know if you've seen them two questions, so we're going to touch on your thing, Paul, because I can't have a Scot on and not talk about Scotland. But listen, and we'll talk about what Namrat is saying because it links in. But like you saying, you need to be scouting, you need to be knowing, and no offense, this year I don't think it was done right, Graham. And I know, like, listen, we're done. Not getting into it. I'm just looking at players, like I said, Tukara, Estelle, Leon. These are 3 players that were brought in. They're not going to be on little wages. It didn't work. And I mean, I get it. Not every single player is going to work. I get it. But we now, I suppose, are in a position where we do need, not in a horrible way, but we need more than less to work straight away, sort of like a mayor. Come in straight away and improve us. Or even like Lucia, who's come in, maybe has needed time, but then eventually you're seeing the goals that she's bringing, and the importance that she is. And I mean, I had Rich Laverty on a couple of weeks ago, and he said basically with Marc, you need like 6 months to build into it. We saw with Lisa what he did. We saw with Jade, that was a bit different. But these two are going to be like, I think Vic says, are going to be like new players because they've had that time. But we know with the qualifier and then teams that have been brought up, Paris, Juventus, whoever else, Wolfsburg, these are the teams that we could play. And we have beaten Paris, so it's not like, even Madrid, I would say we could give them a little bit of a run for money. For me, I think the last 2 times that City played them, I think they sort of underestimated them, especially the first time they played them. I think they definitely underestimated them because they played the stronger team versus Everton. Didn't make sense to me. But anyway, I don't think we'll underestimate any of those teams because you can't,
No.
But it's just, I don't know what you think, because we need players to come in now. We're talking about Esme, we're talking about the, Martin, I know it's not happening or whatever, but we need players to come in and make that bang impact. And, like we've seen, those 3 haven't really. And,
No, I mean, they haven't at all. For however we look at it, for right or wrong reasons, be it because they haven't played enough. Everyone will have their own opinion on either side, but I think you do need players, especially this season. Say you sign 5 players, I think you need 3 of them to come in and hit the ground running. 2 of them you can maybe allow time to bed in, but like, you've got a Champions League, you've got Continental Cup. I mean, you know what? If next season you finish second, you get to the group stages of the Champions League, you don't win the FA Cup, but you get to the quarterfinals, but you win the Continental Cup. I think, people sometimes say Manchester United fans are impatient. I kind of think you'd be quite happy with that. It's a trophy. That is your next step, is winning a trophy and getting further forward. But I just think the squad needs to be bigger, and I think that includes players coming, hitting the ground from the off. Like, you look at Chelsea, every single year they have 2 players to bring in that just work. They just work. And I know we're talking about a very different club. I think Chelsea are much further ahead in their story, but like I touched on it before, there's like a Chelsea 0.1, Chelsea 2.0, Chelsea 3.0. I think we're now seeing Chelsea 4.0, I think has been said. They're not my words. I think someone else said that as well. But Chelsea every year have the 2 or 3 players they can bring in, and they've lost. I mean, Chelsea have lost Harder and Ericsson. Is anyone worried about Chelsea's? No, not really. I think everyone knows how strong they're going to be. because every year they bring in 2 or 3 players that just hit the ground running alongside 2 or 3 of the players that will make an impact in the squad. And maybe like a young player like Lauren James will, she comes further on the season. She's even better than she was, previously. And I think Manchester United need that. I don't think you can go into next season with like the same team. I just don't. I think it makes sense. You've got to hit the ground running with a team that's better than the team you had previously if you want to get better. It's just the basics. I'm not saying anything outlandish there. I'm not using rocket science. It's just basics.
Yeah, you mean you're saying it, aren't you? I mean, I think he even said it, didn't he? It won't be the same team, but
he said he feels it's not finished, doesn't he? He said that so many times. I feel like we're about 50% there, 60% there, whatever it may be. Yeah. He knows the team needs to get bigger. I'm saying that he knows it.
And I mean, I think, but like you said, isn't it? We've not got that time really. I think to let someone have 6 months like he did with the ones that he brought in January. I mean, maybe that was the plan. I mean, it does look like it's sort of like the Chelsea plan where they brought in the Lisa and the Jade. I mean, I think Jade early to have that time. So now they're used to it. But yeah, I mean, Paul's got a question here. He talks about the Women's Scottish League and obviously Europe in Scotland. So what do you think of the standard there? Because we do see a lot of, for example, I'm going to name a player, probably not one that you expected. Poppy Lawson, she was, for me, Man United through and through, captain of the 21s who won the double. I mean, not just because of her, a lot of players left, but like a lot of players left. But she was one that I know I watch a lot of the 21s, and that's one I thought would come through 100%. But obviously, she wanted to play. She went to Hibernian, and I saw she got player of the match.
She got player of the year. Player of the year, I think she got.
Oh, well, fantastic. You see, that's what I love to see. So it is sort of a good place, Scotland, I suppose, for young talent.
Massively improving, hugely. Like, I think, people will know I touched on before. I work for a club at weekend. That's Glasgow City, obviously. Championship Scotland, stuff like that. And there's tons of players that, I mean, Sam Kerr has just left, obviously, former Glasgow City. Did a formative year at City and then has been at Rangers.
Went to Bayern, and I was shocked. But that's is her quality then.
Yeah, and I think that's the case. I think it just, there is players in there that, I mean, Emma Watson, who's been linked to Manchester United, I've seen her play for Scotland. She's 17, but like, she's so confident. She's such a good player that, and sometimes you'll watch a player. I think we all as fans watch a player, and you can see when a player is talented because they're 2 steps ahead of other people on the pitch. And she's got that very much so. Sam.
Can I ask a question then, Graham, about Emma? Just generally, do you think she would walk in? She wouldn't walk in because no one should be guaranteed. But do you think, for example, look at Evie, who there's talk that she might not play straight away. There's talk that she might go on loan. Do you think Emma could come straight into that Man United team and have an impact, or do you think no, she would have to go on loan? Because that's what I mean. Is the quality? Obviously, it's not. But could she play versus Reading aren't in it anymore, but versus a Bristol, versus a Brighton, versus a Leicester, and
it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me in that because she seems really fearless. I mean, I don't know the girl, but like I've seen her countless times, and she's certainly completely fearless. And there's some other good young players at Rangers, like Jodie McCleary is obviously very, very good. Kirsten McLean's very, very good as well. For me, Emma's the pick of the bunch, to be honest. But for me, she would be a Grace Clinton, and I'm not saying that's because she's not good enough to get in. I would want to watch. I'm not sure. I think she could be. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think, like, in her progression, she'd want to be playing every single week. I think she needs minutes at her. I think the loan of Grace Clinton was actually really clever because I think the way Bristol City plays very similar to the way Man United play, and they're playing at the top end of the league, fighting for championships, which, she's ended up winning and playing really, really well. So I think a move similar to that would be quite important. I don't think it's any coincidence that Man United send players on loan to Bristol City and Birmingham, because they're 2 teams that will fight at the top of the league, and that means they're playing in title races. They're fighting to win things as opposed to just stay up. I think a move like somewhere like that would do the world of good. But honestly, from what I've seen, the sky's the limit for that player. She's very, very good. If Manchester United are interested, which it seems to be the case, then from what people have said, she's a very, very good talent. And Scotland for me, Sam Kerr went to Bayern Munich for a reason because she's a very, very good player. And if you can play for Bayern, then there's no reason you can't play in the WSL. And for me, she would be one of many that could do that. And I'm sure Sam will do very, very well. And I think Emma, if she did come to a club like Manchester United, can make an impact 100%.
And I'm going to touch back on. Look, we're doing a lot of pivots this evening. I hope you don't mind going for a tiny bit more. It's been a bit long, so we will wrap it up soon, guys. But I'm going to touch on what Charlie said. Then I'm going to touch back on youth players, because I do think for Man United, youth is very important. Obviously, you touched on Grace, touched on, but we've signed down Alessia, we've signed down Barry. But this is what Charlie's saying. The club won't play for proper world-class talent. I mean, that is what we're saying. I mean, we are going to wrap it up. But it does feel like that. It does feel like, we're talking about world-class talent, Ona's world-class talent.
Yeah.
Alessia's on the way, and they could be both going. And I just think, if they're not going to pay for the ones that are already here, why are they going to then go pay transfer fees? I mean, there's one name that I've been linked to. I've heard Caroline I know I'm just dropping in a name, guys. You see, that's what I won't stop. But that was Barca, Chelsea, Leon, Man United were linked, and there's talking about paying a big fee. People are saying potentially Barca and Chelsea. No, she won't go there. So it is like mainly the front runners and Leon and Man United. This is all coming from Brazil and America. But she's got a contract at the NWSL clubs won't let her go for cheap. She'll then want to come on big wages, and
Yeah, 100%. And I think again it goes back to clarity, doesn't it? Like, for all we know, like, Man United are more than happy to be putting these bids in, and it's just not happening. Like, we don't know, but I think it's going back to clarity again when the likes of, we don't know really who's staying already, and we're half guessing, aren't we? We're saying, oh well, Hayley Ladd's signed the contract. I think surely Mary Earps has signed the contract, but again we don't know, and that lack of clarity does puts the heebie-jeebies up fans, because they want a bit more clarity. And I understand, obviously, a club can't come out and just be like, well, this is where we're at, and yada yada. And I think Marc's as clear as he can be, but as a fan base, you just want to know what team you've got, and you want to have a bit of confidence in the club. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be confident in the club. I just can understand why some people aren't 100%, and I understand how that feeds into saying you won't play for world-class talent, because you're starting to think, well, if we can't tie our best players down, because there hasn't been clarity on that, further worries eke in. And that's kind of how football works. We're all obsessed with it, so we all think about it probably too much, and that creates positive and negative emotions, and that's just football, and that's probably why we love it, but maybe not loving it at the moment if you're of the persuasion that think things are not perfect at United.
I mean, George is saying it here, and I do think, I know it sounds really horrible, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for our youth, for Grace, for Maya, for Rabjohn, for Emma. But this is where we seem to be firing off. I mean, God, for our academy, that's what we want. We want to see Manchester girls coming through. Kira Barry, Alessia, her, and Jess Simpson sign a deal. Saf sign a deal.
Yep.
God, we seem to be. I think we're streets ahead. I know Chelsea are doing very good with their academy. I know Arsenal do very well, but obviously London, they're going to do well. The talent is there.
It seems to be doing well, doesn't it? It does seem to be doing well. You've got to give it that. These players seem like, Jess and Alyssa, like you touched on before, seem to be like, and Saf's doing really well in the games when she's going out on loan. They're getting in and around the squad now and again, and you don't waste your time on a player that you don't think is going to make the grade. And obviously things can change, but they've been in and around the squad, signed contracts for a reason. So that side of it is good. I think that is probably a real positive. But again, the most important thing is what happens this next season, because your best young players don't want to play for a club that's not in the Champions League or not competing for trophies and things. And Manchester United as a club, the name holds a standard, whether you like it or not, whether you've been a club for 5 years or a club for 5 months or a club for 500 years. Manchester United as a club hold a standard, and then every club has a standard to what their fans expect. And Manchester United is as basic as it comes. It's trophies and bringing in the world's best players and competing in the higher echelons of elite competitions. And 5 years or 500 years, that doesn't change. That's just Manchester United's fan base. And if you don't like it, you kind of got to just deal with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know what I do think? Yeah, trophies is very important for us. Youth is very important. I mean, there's reports going around that City and what's going on with their academy, it's not maybe the best, but obviously they've got this new guy in. But in terms of those 4 players that we did mention, they're looking like they're going to go out on loan again, and all of them or one of but I know that definitely 2 of them maybe go into Championship teams. So it is positive in that respect. I did a little tweet that said they've got positive news, and that's the positive, that these players are going to go to good teams. And I think teams that are going to be, like you're saying about Grace, teams that are going to be at the top, and especially two players I'll say that I just when I saw them and I mean dev football is a bit different, but Barry and Ahern especially, oh my God, like I know what you're saying about Emma's playing for Scotland at Hampden, and I know that there was someone there watching, from Man United, so make of that as what you will as well, guy. But Ahern, Alessia is just off for me. It's magic what she can do.
There's talent coming through, isn't it? That you can see there's talent there coming through, which is a massive positive, which probably isn't touched on enough. There is definitely talent coming through, and there's contracts being signed for a reason. And Evie Rabjohn's obviously a massive talent as well, and she kind of fits in with that age group as well.
I mean, that seems to be the positive that we have for you guys. I'm sorry. Listen.
Ending on a positive. Always good.
Yeah. That's what they say about us.
Yes.
We're too negative towards him. We don't believe.
I've got the positive, man.
But we end on a positive. Yeah, listen, I just want to say everyone for watching. Listen, I never expected these many people to be watching. It's been 50 plus. Let's just say that throughout the whole show. So thank you so much. Drop a like on if you liked it. If you didn't like it, drop it in the comments and say why you didn't like it. We'll try and improve it. If there's something that we missed off, we'll do it again. There's going to be big shows like this coming up. When we do, I suppose, hear more. We'll always try and do the shows when we're hearing things. Graham's welcome back on before the season. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you for everyone, new people commenting, whether you're an Arsenal fan, Man United fan, from abroad, Barca fan, whatever. It is what it is. Get in the comments, and let's talk about football. We love it. Listen, Spanish, Manchester, everything. Oh, I don't know what that's about, but listen, peace out. Graham, if there's anything you want to shout out as well, go for it.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to be that. I'm probably going to be very quiet because I'm going to a festival from tomorrow. But I've actually really enjoyed. I'm not the kind of person that says, follow me, subscribe, and all that. That's not my real style. But I've actually really actively enjoyed chatting with Man United fans this year, and fans of other clubs as well. But I think, as I touched on throughout the show, I've really enjoyed getting down to Man United this year and sort of meeting the fans and stuff. So please, just drop me a follow or have a bit of a chat, because that kind of makes the world go around and makes my day a bit better. So even if I've got nothing to share, I like a chat. So feel free to do that. And any questions, obviously, you can just follow me. It's just my name at Twitter, and just follow me, and we'll have a bit of a chat, because it's summertime, so we've got plenty of things to chat about, I think, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. Don't worry, there'll be more shows. I've got other guests coming on, big transfer guests. Don't worry, I've locked them off. Yeah, they know where they're coming. So yeah, here's the place to be, guys. But like Graham said, hit him up. We're on Twitter. You know where to find us. So yeah, take care, everyone. Thanks for coming, Graham.
Thank you very much for having me.